He used to wake up before the sun, not because he wanted to chase dreams, but because hunger wouldn't let him sleep. There was a time when he carried bricks on his shoulders until his skin cracked, a time when his shoes had holes so wide the rain felt like needles against his feet. People saw him as just another poor worker, invisible, replaceable, ordinary. But what nobody saw was the fire inside him. The same hands that mixed cement and swept factory floors would one day sign billion-dollar deals. The same man who once begged for extra shifts would build a company that hired thousands. And the same world that ignored him would eventually call him a visionary. But here's the twist. Success didn't come because he was lucky. It came after betrayal, humiliation, sleepless nights, and sacrifices that almost broke him. This is the story of how a poor worker built a billion-dollar company and the painful price he paid along the way. He was born in a small industrial town where smoke from factories filled the sky and opportunities were scarce. His father worked long shifts in a warehouse, and his mother stitched clothes at home just to keep food on the table. Money was always tight. Some weeks they had to choose between paying electricity or buying proper groceries. As a child, he didn't dream about becoming rich. He dreamed about stability, about seeing his parents rest without worry carved into their faces. At 14, he left school, not because he wanted to, but because the family needed income. He started working at a construction site, carrying tools and cleaning debris. The older workers laughed at him. "This is your life now," they would say. "Get used to it." But deep inside, he refused to believe that. Every evening after work, exhausted and covered in dust, he would sit outside a small internet cafe. He couldn't afford a computer, so he watched others through the window, curious about this digital world he didn't understand. Technology fascinated him. It felt like a doorway to something bigger. One night, the cafe owner noticed him lingering outside. Instead of chasing him away, the man offered him a deal. "Clean the place after closing," he said, "and you can use a computer for 1 hour." That 1 hour changed everything. He began teaching himself basic coding through free tutorials. He didn't understand everything at first. Sometimes the screen felt like it was speaking a foreign language, but he kept trying. While others slept, he practiced typing lines of code, deleting them, starting again. Days turned into months. At work, he was still the lowest paid worker, but at night, he was building something invisible, knowledge. Eventually, he started freelancing online, small tasks, fixing simple website bugs, designing basic pages. The payments were tiny, but to him, it felt like freedom. For the first time, he wasn't just trading hours for wages, he was creating value. But here's where things started to shift. One of his online clients offered him a partnership. The idea was simple: build affordable websites for small local businesses. It sounded like a breakthrough. They shook hands virtually and began working together. For months, he poured every spare minute into the project. He skipped family gatherings, he ignored friends. His world became code, deadlines, and coffee. Then one morning, he logged into the shared account, and everything was gone. The client had locked him out. The money, the projects, the contacts, all transferred under the partner's sole control. He was left with nothing. No legal contract, no protection, just betrayal. He felt stupid, naive, angry at himself. For days, he couldn't focus. At his construction job, he dropped tools and got shouted at by supervisors. At night, he stared at the computer screen but couldn't type. That betrayal nearly ended his journey. But something inside him refused to die. Instead of quitting, he analyzed what went wrong. He realized he lacked business knowledge. He knew how to build websites, but he didn't understand contracts, ownership, or strategy. So he started learning again. This time, not just coding, but business law, marketing, branding. He watched interviews of entrepreneurs, he read free online books, he studied how companies scaled from small startups into global brands. And then came the idea that would change his life. He noticed that many small businesses struggled not just with websites, but with managing customers, tracking sales, and handling appointments. Everything was scattered: spreadsheets, notebooks, sticky notes. What if there was one simple tool that handled it all? But here's the problem. He had no money to build a full product, no investors, no team. What nobody expected was that he would build the first version alone. For 8 months, he worked his construction shift during the day and coded at night. He slept 4 hours on average. His body ached constantly. His mother begged him to slow down. "You look sick," she said, but he kept going. Finally, he launched a basic version of his software. It wasn't perfect, it crashed sometimes. The design looked plain, but it worked. He approached local shop owners personally. Many ignored him,
Some laughed. Why would we trust a construction worker with software? They asked. Rejection after rejection hit him like a punch. Still, one small salon agreed to try it for free. Within weeks, their appointments were more organized. Fewer customers were missed, sales tracking improved. Word began to spread. Slowly, 5 businesses signed up, then 12, then 30. For the first time, money started coming in consistently, not from heavy labor, but from something he built with his mind. But success brought new problems. As customers increased, the system began crashing under pressure. He couldn't handle customer support alone. Complaints flooded his inbox. Some users demanded refunds. Negative reviews appeared online. It felt like everything was collapsing. He faced a brutal decision: stay small and safe or take a risk. He chose risk. He quit his construction job. His family panicked. "You're leaving a stable income for a computer idea?" his father asked. The pressure at home became unbearable. Arguments became frequent. He felt torn between responsibility and ambition. But he knew this was the moment. He used all his savings to hire 2 freelance developers. It was terrifying. If the company failed, he would be in debt. For months, there was no profit, only expenses. Then came another betrayal. One of the developers secretly copied parts of the software and tried to launch a competing version. When he found out, it felt like history repeating itself. This time he was prepared. He had contracts in place, legal protections. Instead of collapsing, he fought back. The developer backed down. The company survived. And then something unexpected happened. A popular business influencer mentioned his tool in a video, calling it a hidden gem for small business owners. Overnight, traffic exploded. Thousands signed up for free trials. His servers nearly crashed again, but this time he had a team. Investors began reaching out. For years, he had been ignored. Now, venture capital firms wanted meetings. He didn't accept the first offer. He remembered what it felt like to lose control before, so he negotiated carefully, ensuring he retained decision-making power. The investment allowed him to expand the platform, hire a full team, and market globally. Within 5 years, the company crossed millions in annual revenue. Within 8, it became a billion-dollar valuation company. The boy who once cleaned an internet cafe now owned an office building with his company's name shining on the glass. But behind the headlines was a different story. The emotional cost was heavy. He missed birthdays, he missed weddings, relationships faded. A long-term girlfriend left him, saying, "You're married to your company." There were nights he sat alone in his apartment, surrounded by success, yet feeling empty. His parents eventually understood his vision, but they also aged during those stressful years. He carried guilt for not being more present. Even after becoming wealthy, he struggled with trust. Betrayals had left scars. He found it hard to believe in people fully. Yet he also grew stronger. He began mentoring young entrepreneurs from poor backgrounds, remembering exactly what it felt like to stand outside opportunity, looking into the window. He created scholarship programs for students who couldn't afford technology. He invested in small startups started by workers like he once was, because he never forgot where he came from. And here's the powerful truth. Building a billion-dollar company wasn't just about coding or strategy. It was about resilience, about choosing to continue when humiliation felt unbearable, about turning betrayal into education instead of bitterness. People now see the success, the interviews, the awards, the numbers. They don't see the cracked hands from construction work, the nights of doubt, the arguments at home, the silent tears after losing everything twice. But that's the real story. He didn't escape poverty overnight. He climbed out of it slowly, painfully, step by step. And maybe that's what makes it powerful. Because if a poor worker with no degree, no connections, and no money could build something that changed his destiny, then maybe limits are not as fixed as we think. Maybe the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is simply the refusal to stop. So the next time life knocks you down, when someone betrays you, when people laugh at your dreams, when progress feels invisible, remember this story. Remember the worker who stared at computers through a cafe window. Remember the man who lost everything and built again. And ask yourself, what if your struggle is not the end of your story, but the beginning?